If you are still shaking your head as much as I have been, it may be because you too have seen the Omnibus spending bill that Congress passed and President Trump signed. In this bill, a record $1.3 trillion was handed out like lunch money to the various federal agencies and pet projects of the members of Congress. And this $1.3 trillion will fund the government all the way through September, a whole 6 months. Now, for those who don't know what an omnibus is, it's just a fancy way to say it's something where several items are included. It translates from Latin to be for all. In this instance, the omnibus is a spending bill where Congress threw everything in, including the kitchen sink and Obama's spending priorities. This bill, H.R. 1625, has more than just several items. It has volumes. Let me show you. This pile of paper represents the spending bill, which is 2,232 pages. Members of Congress were given a whole 16 hours and 40 minutes, or 1,000 minutes to read the bill. If they would have been able to download, print, and immediately start reading this bill without ever stopping, the member of Congress would have to read 2.23 pages every minute to finish it. We won't even talk about comprehension. Another way to look at it, this piece of paper just cost $582 million and change. What would Benjamin Franklin say about spending all of these Benjamins? Oh yes, he'd say, rather go to bed without dinner than to rise in debt. Many of our founders understood the insidious nature of debt. Franklin would rather cut expenses extremely than kick the can down the road by incurring debt. But this Congress and this president, through this bill, showed that they'd rather add to the $21 trillion we already have in debt. President Trump went against his base by signing a bill that included funding Planned Parenthood, funding sanctuary cities, applying gun control, and keeping Obamacare provisions. He did get sizable military funding and some money for the border wall, but many concessions were made. And then he gave some rhetoric. I say to Congress, I will never sign another bill like this ever again. Nobody read it. But they sure did vote on it. The vote first passed the House 256 to 167 before moving to the Senate in a vote of 65 to 32. And who voted against it? All of these people. When you get Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Cory Booker voting the same as Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, and Rand Paul, there's trouble in River City. There wasn't enough money for the leftists who wanted DACA and too much money for a few conservatives. This should be a lesson. For the yes votes, it's all about their re-election. They can go home now and say they work to get funding for pet projects that potentially matter to their constituents. This is the ongoing cycle that is the United States Congress, or SWAMP for short. And this is their big ticket agenda item for the rest of the year. After having to pass 5 successive temporary spending bills because they could not get a comprehensive package to date, this is what they gave us and are claiming victory for. But don't worry, they'll be spending the next 6 months running for re-election. This is not a Democrats versus Republicans battle. This is Washington, D.C. versus the rest of us Americans who need to work every day for the next 6 months so that we can further put our country in massive debt. And when we are dead tired and beat down, we are supposed to look to our politicians running for office. Look for them to convince us that we deserve the crumbs and empty promises that they will work hard for us. We all hear talk about draining the swamp. But look at what just happened. All of Congress is now swimming around with $1.3 trillion they just okayed to spend. And then look on as everyday Americans are sold down the river, which leads directly to that swamp. I'm Katie, and until next time, stay healthy, America.